Hello, we are live. See some people are already chatting, that's nice. Great to be here with you. Hilda, Mahasvetaful. Yeah, great to have you here. This is pretty special because we're moving into Inktober mode. A month long of ink drawing bliss and creative proliferation. It's crazy what starts happening in October on social media with everyone sharing their Inktober work. Hello, Andy from the gloomy and grey UK. Welcome to the gloomy and grey Germany. It's beautiful here though, even though it's gloomy and grey. Dean, Stina, Karen, Brenda, Annette. So wonderful to have so many familiar names here. And for those of you who are also not writing in the chat, it's great to have you here too, from all over the place. Awesome. So I've got something special in store for today. I've been talking about my Acorn ink the last couple of live streams, which is like, it's the ink I've used most. It's the most inky ink that I have. When I first started making it, it had this really nice dark brown sepia tone. And as my ink mix, my iron mix has matured, it's become really, really dark. So I'm really happy to share that with you because for me, I love all these different color inks, but Inktober is really dark for me. So I'm really happy to share this special ink making recipe video with you today. Seeing more familiar names is great. Hello, Jennifer, Clover, Bobby, Janice, Margie, Irene, so good to have you all here. Yeah, so today we're going to watch an ink making video together and then we'll get into our drawing. And this is a lot like the Ink Naturally sessions and classes that we had. A lot of people are still starting with Ink Naturally, which was awesome. It was live in June, I think, the first month. And so the ink for today, to answer that question, is acorn ink. So it's made with acorns and iron, and it's delightfully dark. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing the technique with you. Robin is here, awesome, so cool. Yeah, great. It's so nice to have so many internet friends watching and drawing along. It's awesome. So yeah, during Ink Naturally, I shared a lot of ink making recipes, and some of them were pink and yellow, and had all sorts of different shades and different techniques, different plant matter that we used. And we did an acorn cap ink, but this is the first time that I've shared the video, the process of using the entire acorn. So you can use the acorn, the caps, the nut, the skin, all of it. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and in a latitude where oaks grow, now is the time for acorns. And into winter, they're pretty fresh now, and as they start to decompose, they're still really good for making ink. So that's great. And I'll just, since we'll be watching this video together, I'll already introduce our muses for today. This is Nutmeg and Mimi Boothby, and this is such a fun, awesome photo. And just have a few words from Mimi here. Nutmeg has been a shoulder cat her whole life. She's 11. And I've been an artist my whole life, and it feels like Sketchy was invented for me, a never-ending source of faces to paint. Yeah, Sketchy's awesome, and it's so great to be here with the Sketchy crew and anyone new, whether you're in the Sketchy art school or watching these live streams or using the Sketchy app. It's really, yeah, such a cool community and a great, delightful way to create together. So I think now people have arrived, settled in. We're going to watch an ink making video together. And if you don't have access to acorns, this is still, you can use any plant matter which is high in tannin to replace the acorns. So even if oaks don't grow where you are, this could still be quite a relevant ink making video for you. So let's watch it together. I'm going to share with you how to make one of my favorite inks, and here's some acorns ripening, and the ground is covered with them. There's just thousands and thousands of acorns lying on the ground here, and it's such a wonderful tree. It's a very significant and important tree to us, and our first son is even named after the oak tree. And it's one of my favorite inks, so I'm really excited to share this with you. And we're gonna make a really lovely dark ink from it, and it's my staple ink for nice dark inky work. So let's collect some of these acorns that are all over the ground here. So this is some plant matter for ink making that you can comfortably collect as much as you want, because yeah, I just have a perfect amount here for making some ink in. I have usually have paper bags with me, but this is an empty bagged nuts, and perfect for foraging and storing my collected acorns in. And if you feel a bit like a squirrel jumping around on the ground and collecting acorns, that's wonderful. But yeah, there are still so many acorns here that we, certainly don't even make a dent in the kind of environmental impact of collecting these and taking them out of the loop for other creatures to feed upon. So with a really good conscience, you can just collect pretty much as many acorns as you want. Yeah, let's cook them up and make some wonderful acorn ink together. Okay, here's a quick rundown of what we're going to need, how we're going to make our acorn ink. Here are the acorns that I collected. Iken, whose birthday party it is today, who was helping me crush up some of these acorns with the mortar and pestle. This is super handy, or you can put your acorns in a blender. You need a pot to cook them in, you need water to cook them in, and you're going to need a sieve, funnel, some empty jars of varying sizes, and what's super important is you need rusty metal things. And now here we have, I've collected some screws and random rusty things, and I have salt and vinegar in this jar. And what you can do with 2 jars over the course of a couple of weeks is you let it sit for a couple of days, and then you pour off the liquid, let the metal things breathe and oxidize, and then pour the liquid back in. And the vinegar iron mix is just going to keep intensifying and have more and more iron in there, which is going to be perfect for making our ink really dark. Yeah, so because this is more of a woody plant matter, it's going to need to cook for quite a while. And the smaller you can get the bits of acorn, then the better and easier it's going to be for extracting the pigment. And I'm going to, as I cook it, I will let it boil and then turn off the heat, and then twice a day, maybe for 3 days, or you could do it for longer, or you could put it next to a campfire if you've got a fire going, or a wood oven, and just so you're not like blasting so much energy into creating this ink. But it is going to be worth it because it's going to be really good. So now it's just up to crushing these and getting them ready. Caps, nuts, everything, it can all go in there. And it's so tannin rich, it reacts with the iron, and it's going to make a really nice ink for us. It's yeah, my most used favorite dark ink. So I'm really happy to share this with you, and I hope maybe for some of you it's going to become your favorite ink too. Put this vinegar down before it jumps off the table.
What?
I'll just put the vinegar down before it jumps off the table. Why are they dumb?
Don't know.
Blah. Come back here. Come back here.
What?
Ah, come back here. Right, yours look pretty good and crushed. Do you want to put them in here? And then you can do some more.
More. I want more. I want more flashy.
Oop.
More. I want more. I want more flashy.
That looks yummy.
Geht.
Okay.
Oh, und du fällst jetzt auch noch an, wo tausende von Maden drin waren. Bäh. I am further than you.
Yeah. Wow. You want to eat some?
Nein.
Ah. Ah.
Eine wollte nicht zerhauen werden. I'm further than you. 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 Mine are pretty good crush. Mine are pretty good crush.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alright, can you put them in here already?
Ich tue immer extra wenige rein.
Yeah, so you can do a really good job crushing them. Okay, nice.
Ja. Juppie, juppie, yay. Ich tue extra wenige rein. Da da bi da da do bi da do. Unser Boot, ich bin schneller als du. Stasch, 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 stasch. Krisch, 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 kadabadaba.
Okay, awesome.
Du tust sie einfach so rein. I'm doing a better job than you.
Doing a heaps better job.
Ist ja auch kein Wunder, ich mache auch nur viel weniger. Ja auch kein Wunder. Papa, du hast 2 verloren.
Wow. Okay. Then here.
Finished.
Finished. Alright. Up here the bees and wasps are buzzing in the ivy, loving the sun, and down here my pot of acorns are just sitting in the sun in their water, and you can already see the pigment coming out. It looks like a nice dark tea colour. So the sun and the warmth are already preparing our ink for us. So this sat in the sun for a while and it was almost ready to turn into ink. Then I just brought it to the boil once and it's already got a really awesome dark inky colour. So we've got our funnel and sieve. I'm just going to pour off the liquid that we've prepared here. With Icon's help, our ink is almost ready, Icon. We've got this dark brown coffee kind of colour. And you could already start drawing with this really. You can maybe do a little colour test here.
Whoa.
Got this kind of yellow brown colour, Yeah, and Icon has this cool stuff. A jar of rusty screws and stuff. So this
There's no water in there.
No, this is totally evaporated. So this is the secret ingredient. And we're going to turn this dark brown liquid into almost black, awesome ink. So I've had this vinegar and rust jar going for a couple years, and I keep feeding it occasionally with vinegar. I'm going to use a plastic spoon to put it in here, and I hope you're going to be able to see this magic happen because it is so cool. This is the fun part. For this amount, maybe like 2 spoons worth. Yeah, and when the iron reacts, I'll just pick it up, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's just like turned black. I can saw it, and there's our there's our super cool black acorn ink. I'll just drop some on here. You can see the difference. With and without. Yeah, Icon's. How is this? Super overexposed. But you can see down below was the acorn ink without iron, and up top acorn ink with iron. So this is a really awesome dark ink, which I love, and I'm sure you're going to love it too. And I can help me make it. So now we've got this awesome jar of acorn ink for Icon. Hey Ollie. Have helpers today, that's nice. And that's it. Acorn ink. It's totally awesome. Acorns are so abundant. If you
We did it!
You did it! Careful you don't flick ink around. If you've got oak trees growing nearby, we'll have to wash that. I don't have any paper towel. Don't flick your pen while you're drawing excitedly, or you might get ink on your clothes. Watch out. Better watch that.
Dad,
Okay,
hold it.
we're gonna do some drawing.
Bye-bye.
Right. We're going to do some drawing. So thanks for watching along. That was a long phase of smashing acorns there. But I was glad to see that not too many eyes left during the video. So I hope that was really helpful for you, and that you're going to make some really awesome acorn ink or any kind of natural ink. But up here in Germany, Northern Hemisphere at the moment, and yeah, anywhere in this latitude, it's acorn time. So it's a good time for acorn ink. And yeah, I hope you all had fun watching the video. I had fun just watching in the background, seeing what I was doing. So yeah, for future reference, if you want to come back to this video, if you liked it, you can give us a thumbs up. And yeah, if you want to look back to this acorn ink video, then you can come back to this live stream, watch it again, and yeah, I just love this ink. So I hope you're going to love it too. And has anyone here already been preparing their rust and vinegar solution? Because that's something that takes a bit of time. So if you haven't already started, you can get started now, and you'll still be able to use it during Inktober. It may just be a bit later into October that you'll have a really intense rust mix. This is actually the jar I showed during the video, and this is a week later, and now this looks really black instead of like dirty dishwater, which is kind of how it looked a week ago. Acorns are not found in West Bengal. Anything else that's high in tannin, you could maybe use black tea, maybe some other leaves or plant material. Make sure it's not poisonous. And there's a lot of questions coming up now. I will switch over here, and as I start drawing, I'll address the questions. So here's my workspace. Here's a rusty nail, which has this kind of encrusted salt thing here. Acorns, acorn caps, a couple of stick pens. These are great drawing tools. Cool. So Sketchy just put up there. We'll probably share the video as a standalone video. Yeah, so that's cool. But thank you all for being here, for watching that. I'm really looking forward to see what you're all going to make with your amazing homemade ink. Andy, walnut ink, you use the outer husk. It's green when it's fresh and it turns brown. It's not the stuff you can buy in the supermarket. It's the bit that falls off before they sell it in the supermarket. Yeah, so it's the fruit that grows around the nut, which usually doesn't get used unless you're making ink. Mimi is here, awesome. Yeah, collect some acorns. I would love to see what you do with your acorns. So that used a bit of time, so let's start drawing. And for those who didn't catch it last week, here's the drawing I did of Vin. And I used the two different shades like I showed in the video. So this pale brown color is the walnut ink without iron in it, and the black, not walnut, sorry, the acorn ink without iron, and the black is with iron. And a very interesting thing was the without iron and vinegar, it started, the ink, I just left it on my desk for a couple of days, and it started growing some mold on it, whereas the one with iron and vinegar didn't start growing mold so fast. But I didn't mention it in the video. You should put some whole cloves into your ink, or some clove oil or any other essential oil which is kind of antimicrobial and will prevent mold growth, is a very good thing to do. But if you do get mold on your ink, you can just scoop it off and keep using it. Yeah, let's start drawing. So this is the very ink I had made. I'm gonna start with a dip pen. I love these stick pens when I want to thicken up my lines, or just grab some of those. But today I just thought I'll start off with this old faithful dip pen. Before I started making my own pens, I was using this pen a lot. Do we start with Mimi or Nutmeg? This is such a fun photo. Wonderful shoulder cat. Or maybe I should give the ink a stir. Yeah, often with natural inks you'll get some sediment, or the pigment may just kind of sink in the jar. So it's good to give it a stir and kind of get an even distribution of your pigment. Could just notice this line here was kind of pale. Yeah. So I'm going to get drawing because we're already like over 20 minutes in, but I shall endeavour to answer questions. I just want to get things happening here. Just kind of in between Nutmeg and Mimi. So just putting down this contour in between, which just kind of seemed like the place to start. It's awesome. I see some experienced Ink Naturally students here answering a lot of the questions for me, so that's excellent. Yeah, horse chestnuts. That I actually haven't used them though, but yeah, Stina has for dyeing wool, and I'll be making some very soon because it's chestnut time. So I encourage you to experiment with whatever you have in abundance where you live. If you ask around, make sure it's not poisonous. You don't want to put yourself or anyone at risk. But whatever you have in abundance, as soon as you know it's not poisonous, then I totally would love for you to start experimenting with what you have available wherever you are in the world. Whether it be West Bengal or Germany, Australia. If you're in the southern hemisphere, totally different things are ripe at the moment. I'm from Australia, but live in Germany. But yeah, for wherever you are, there's just such an abundance of botanical color available for us to make really nice inks with. That's cool that there's this conversation about chestnuts going on the sideline here. And here, to address this question, when is the next class in the Sketchy Art School? Following on from Inktober, because yeah, I'm one of the featured artists for Inktober, and the next installment of Ink Naturally will be in November. So I've got Inktober on the brain at the moment, but I'm really excited to delve even deeper and do more and more in the with the Ink Naturally class. And for those who have not yet done it, there's a coupon code below this video, I believe, and if you sign up for it, you can get any other sketchy class for 40% off. So if you haven't signed up for Ink Naturally and Inktober yet, I would think that would be a pretty good package deal. Here, I'm just keeping it, just keep the pen moving, keep drawing. We got some extra time pressure today, but that's fine. We'll just keep drawing. And for me, I feel like it's always just important. I'm looking at the corner of the eye. Where does it drop down approximately to the nose? And where can I put the nostril? It's kind of lining up here. And it's all very approximate. Like, I'm not looking for spot-on measurements in this time frame that we have. But I find this way of kind of comparing as I draw around, looking the way at different shapes, shadow shapes, contours. Yeah, sometimes you have really subtle shapes within the shadows and highlights, and just always looking for different landmarks to see, okay, where do I want to make my next line? How do these things line up? How am I going to draw them together? To just work my way around the portrait. And yeah, it feels fun working with the dip pen at the moment. So I've done a lot of videos with these broad edge stick pens, which I totally love. I'll just put that question back down. But this particular pen is like a dear old friend that's been with me a long time through my ink drawing journey before I started making inks. I went to a stationery shop and I bought this nib holder and a whole bunch of nibs, and yeah, it's also great tools for inking with. Oh, Stina, you're answering the questions. So good. Yeah, so do you use rust and vinegar for all the inks? Ask Margie, and Stina answers. This is great if you're reading along in the chat. I hardly even need to answer these questions, but there's very good questions. Because yeah, it's the issue of modifiers. There are different modifiers you can use to shift the pH value, and iron tends to make iron and copper. They will change the colors of your inks, and also tend to make them more light fast, which is nice. Although, yeah, sometimes it's nice to have some light fastness, but I also totally enjoy watching inks change color with time. You're answering all of it, Stina. It's so cool. So I hope everyone else is reading along in the chat. It's awesome. Stina and Andy like tag team answering questions. It's so good. Dawn, thank you. Totally off topic here, but I painted my first ever mural this week, and it was a lot of fun. I've been sharing it in my stories on Instagram. I've not yet posted the finished mural, but it is finished. So in the coming days, maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight, I'll post the picture of the finished mural. It was so much fun to draw something that was like 100 times bigger than anything I've ever drawn before. It was quite an enjoyable experience. Something I think I'd be happy to do at least once a month. So if anyone has a wall for me to paint, let me know. And it was a really cool project too. It turned into a really nice social. It took on a life of its own. Like there were so many people involved. I just got there and did my painting business, but the models that I had and the story of the neighborhood. So it's a building that's going to be demolished, and it actually started off like that. So as this is a nice segue to the thing of light fastness and permanence and impermanence. Just the nature of impermanence in our work. And so some inks don't really retain their color, but I think it's really enjoyable to watch how they change with time. And sometimes they will change just on the paper as you're drawing. You'll watch your inks transforming, which I love. I think it's super fun. So yeah, this mural project, it started off with the idea of I'd like to draw on a building that's going to be torn down, and then it set some wheels in motion, which ended up with me the past week working on my first ever mural, which is going to be torn down in November. And that's part of the entire concept and part of life and change. And I had a lot of interesting conversations. And people walk up to me painting the mural and like, why are you doing this? It's going to be torn down. Like, yeah, that's just part of the idea. And it's interesting because it's going to be torn down and the people that live in this building have to move. So that it just gave this extra depth to the entire project that totally just impermanence. Like these people, they're going to get new apartments built on the same piece of land. So no one's losing their home, but they're being forced to move out. And some people don't want to. But that just added this totally meaningful layer to the whole project. I just wanted to paint a picture on a wall, but it turned out being a group portrait of people that are being forced to move because their house is being knocked down. So it's the residents living there really seemed to enjoy it, and had some wonderful conversations, and a lot of people came together and like, you know that person, who's that? Oh, that guy lives over there. So it really became a community event. It's really cool. And I have a time-lapse video of the painting process, which I've been trying to edit. First everything I filmed with a GoPro, which I didn't really know how to use. So that will be coming soon. That will be in my Instagram stuff. Thank you, Sketchy, for the link. So you can check my Instagram account there. Andy, good question. This, it's a good idea to wash your nibs when you're finished, but it totally does rust the nibs. And I know Stina has like her grandfather's fountain pen or something. So I wouldn't go putting this ink necessarily into that pen if you want it to last for a long time. But I have got I got a bunch of nibs here. I bought them from an art store that was closing down. And I've actually been using this for years, the same nib, but I'm not too precious with them. So this definitely will, this ink will corrode my pen. If you have some antique pen nibs that you'd like to preserve, then watch out using iron inks. Anisha's using leaf ink today. Awesome. Cool. What kind of leaves, Anish? Last weekend, for the first time, I made walnut leaf ink. So there was just a comment from Anish. You can use walnut husks, you can use walnut leaves, and you can use walnut blossoms. And you can probably use you can probably use the bark if you happen to have some branches that have fallen down or something. So there's so many parts of the tree, and they gives like subtly different effects. I think that the husk is the most intense so far. The colors that I've made, like the darkest. So yeah, I haven't been talking too much about the drawing process so far, but I hope you're all just totally in the flow, having fun drawing along. There are some things, some parts of the drawing can totally do on autopilot, like this kind of the color, the different areas, filling in shadow shapes, just hatching them in. But when I come to the eyes, I like to kind of slow down and really look at what I'm doing. An easy mistake is to get the like the angle wrong. Like you may put the corner of the eye in the wrong place, and it can so easily make the portrait look a bit kind of skewed, look a bit odd. So it's good to really check on that and just kind of extending this invisible line to see, okay, where do I want to put the corner of the eye? And once you have that corner, you can just kind of like extend it, and always taking stock of what's on your reference to really have a look how these different shapes are relating to each other. It's interesting in this photo. So this is something where the photo has kind of made a decision for us. Like I just went along here, it's like, yeah, the eye looks totally black from where I'm sitting. But over here, it's like, oh no, now I start to see the difference between the pupil and the iris. But I've already made this totally black. So that's a question. I probably shouldn't have made that totally black, but I was just kind of talking a lot and going along with it. But just because the camera has simplified the information that we see in the photo, and through our real life experience of observing and drawing and knowing things, you could take into account that the eye is probably, usually you can see some differentiation between the pupil and the iris. Maybe I can kind of fill it in, and I'll come back when it's dry, which may not happen in the next 20 minutes, and add some definition to the pupil. So Mimi there's so much to draw in this face. It's so wonderful. Freckles and wrinkles, and it's just perfect. we're also going to leave some time for nutmeg. So I'll just kind of go around and it's fun just quickly putting in some of these kind of details. Oh, there's a splash drop of ink. Didn't land in the white of the eye. It's kind of some shadow over there. Oh, look, I sucked it up and it's just turned into a nice grey colour. That's good. So tap off your pen on the inside of your jar to avoid those kind of surprises. But yeah, I just wanted to put in some of those delightful details. There's a really nice kind of flow here as this wrinkle, the smile line kind of extends and wraps around into the kind of form of the cheek here. It's a nice kind of curving flow. It's cool. Just checking their comments. Colin, you're hoping to make some acorn ink today. Excellent. Excellent. Who else is, who here has made acorn ink and who is now inspired to do so? I'd love to know. I know some of you have already made some acorn ink. So I'm a fan of this super simplified vertical hatching. I'm also a huge fan of Mike's contour hatching. It's so cool. Was anyone here just in Mike's live stream? It's super inspiring and I love it. But what I like about vertical hatching is just the absolute simplification, but still in a way that's able to imply this kind of subtlety and variation in the shading of an ink drawing. Haha, thank you for asking, Jackie. Am I going to draw the cat? I was just thinking, oh, there's so much fun hair and there's so much awesome stuff to draw, but I should really get over and start drawing the cat, Nutmeg. So yes, Jackie, I will be drawing the cat, and I'm really excited to draw Nutmeg. And I haven't left myself heaps of time for it, but that's all right. We love drawing with time constraints, don't we? This is why the Tuesday drawing sessions are just a great practice. All right, I can just keep going into all these details. It's so wonderful. But let's move over to Nutmeg. Yeah, cool. Just reading your replies. This is great. Yeah, the contour hatching is so cool. But on the fly, really quickly, this vertical hatching is also very effective. Cool. It's great to see so many of you who are watching Mike and you're still at it and you're over here with me. It's so nice. Thank you for. Firstly, I'm just like totally in awe of your dedication to learning and drawing. It's so cool. And it's just great to have you here. All right, so now that we've set up a lot of, like, we've kind of made a lot of decisions over here on the portrait of Mimi, and I'm starting to see things that could be a bit different, and there's some things I could play around with a bit to kind of shift that the outside edge, that contour. But it's set up a really good reference to just kind of be like, okay, where's Nutmeg going to be? Where do we put the parts of the cat portrait? Here, maybe. So just like starting at the bottom of Nutmeg's face. How many people here have cats? When I was growing up, I had cats, but have not had for a long time. Perhaps someday again. But there are a lot of cats around my new neighborhood. This is a cat's town. Oh, Jackie, thank you for asking these questions. A rough sketch can really help you. You already make some decisions, and then you can kind of get into your inking with confidence. But it's a really great learning experience to do some drawings where you don't do rough sketches beforehand, or to use a couple of different shades of ink if you're inking. Like, I think it can be really interesting if you have a quick kind of light drawing that you then, once that's dried, you work with darker ink on top of it as you're kind of finding your way. And it can be really great and helpful to have already made decisions in your sketch before you start inking. But I personally think a lot of my drawings where I don't do a preliminary drawing, they often just have a life of their own. That when I start off with a pencil drawing, sometimes it's just kind of a bit more stiff, and so I enjoy the way ink makes me, going straight to ink makes me draw in a more kind of decisive and conscious way, I guess. And I have many experiences, like time and again, where it's like, okay, I'll start with a preliminary drawing this time, and then I'll just redraw the whole thing and end up maybe scrapping a couple drawings because I feel like they're kind of lifeless. It's not always the case. Preliminary drawings are awesome, but I think it's really good practice, and I enjoy the process of not doing preliminary drawings. But it's all good. I guess that's one of the things about ink that I was doing a mentorship with Rebecca Gay, or Rebecca Leville Gay, and she put me on to drawing with ink because she saw a lot of indecisiveness in the way that I would draw and redraw and erase and redraw. She's like, use ink. It's gonna teach you to get decisive about your work. And it was just some of the best advice I've had as an artist, I guess. Okay, here's an acorn ink question. They do not need to be dried. You can use fresh acorns, you can use dried acorns, you can save half of your acorns, and once you've run out, you can make some more from your dried acorns. Drying is a really good way of preserving them, and then you can use them at a later date to make fresh ink. Or if you haven't started your iron solution yet, then you could make some acorn ink now and then make some later when your vinegar and iron solution is a bit more well established. and it'll be really interesting to see the difference you get with the intensity of the varied intensity of your iron solution. And you can pick up decaying, rotting acorns from the ground and still use them to make ink. So they're just wonderful. Whatever state you find them in, you can use them. So that's great, John. Anyone who's making their own ink and sharing their work on Instagram or Sketchy Art School, tag me and use the hashtag inknaturally, so that I and all the other Ink Naturally crew can see your work, because it's just awesome to see people working with natural ink. And yeah, interesting to see similarities and differences in the results people get in their preparation kind of ink. Oh, here's an interesting thing that's happened with the cat's eyes with Nutmeg that was also happening with when I talked about the dark eye on the face is turned away a bit from the camera. You can see there's a bit of distortion too. But the lighting on the left eye in the picture, both Mimi's and Nutmeg's, it's like almost totally black. And on the right side eye that we're looking at, you can see the iris. So that's happening in both portraits here. So noticing that here can then take care with Nutmeg to either make it the same and match this one, or take into account the way things probably actually are. And giving a similar kind of range of value to both eyes. Oh, people have kittens. Yes, Heather. I've used a couple of different fungi to make ink. I can't remember the Latin name, but shaggy ink caps. Tintlinger in German. It has ink in the name. And someone once told me they're delicious, and I was like, it's got ink in the name. And I looked it up and saw that it was indeed used by monks in the Middle Ages, this fungus to make ink with. But making fungi ink is it's pretty stinky. So you get some really great results for inking with. But if you can use it fresh, that's great. If you can't, you'll need some outside space where it's not going to bother anyone, because, or maybe I guess with my mushroom ink, I didn't cook it, because these shaggy ink caps, they just kind of digest themselves and they turn to ink. And if you're familiar with them, they're just a most amazing mushroom. I think they're incredible. But maybe if you cooked it, maybe then it wouldn't stink so much. But I'm not sure. It might still stink. But yeah, that's my experience with. And I used another mushroom. There are a few different kinds of ink caps. And there's some different ones. I think there are even books about dyeing, and like I think more typically for textile dyers, that there are like mushroom field guides for finding fungi that's great for dyeing textiles. So that's a good question, and it's, if you're in a similar climate to me, then it's a good time of year for looking for inky fungus. See some good reactions to that. Cool, Mimi. I'm glad you like the whiskers, and it's so good to have you here in the chat. It's always a treat. And I also think it's also such a special part of the whole sketchy community. all these wonderful people drawing each other, and it's so nice to know that you're out there wherever you are in the world, and that we're drawing together. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to you and Nutmeg and your husband. There's nothing to apologize for. It's a great photo. So thank you very much. Thank you to all three of you for this great photo. Danny, can you use pecans? I don't know. I'm not very familiar with pecans. I think they're delicious. But the outer, I imagine if it's similar to other nuts, there'll be some kind of outer flesh to the nut. So it's not like what you would buy in the store, but it's like the fruit that grows around the nut on the tree. And that would potentially, if it's like walnuts, even a little bit, maybe not as fleshy as a walnut, but that's probably what you want to make your ink with. Rather than the flesh of the nut itself. So you should eat those because they're delicious. And I'm not sure they'd make a good ink anyway. So yeah, it's the outer flesh of the nut, which is usually just not given much thought to. But if you try and find out, let me know, because I'd love to know if you can make pecan ink. Oh, sounds amazing. Got like 4 minutes left. There's so much we could do here. It's great, but there's so much we've already done. It's been a great session drawing together with you. How's everyone else going who's drawing along? Just got like some wonderful pattern in the fur. I can quickly get some of that kind of implied in our drawing. Oh, that's a cool idea. Beech nut pods, I haven't used them. I've eaten beech nuts, and I've thought about using the seed pods, but I haven't yet. But thank you very much for that impulse, because there are a lot of beech trees going around here. I shall be sure to do so, because that is another plant matter that we have in abundance here. Stay in your hands for weeks. Excellent. Sounds like good ink making material. I usually have some kind of stained hands. That's okay. Stina, that's amazing that you're drawing with both your kids there. Oh, kids, it's intense. I have 3 between the ages of 2 and 7. It's great. It's great making ink with them, getting them involved in stuff. It's pretty full on. So I'm very thankful to Kira for enabling me to be here with you all, and enabling me to do what I love doing. It was also with the mural painting. I had a couple of long days. I actually got it painted in 3 days, which I thought was kind of mind-blowing that it was possible. But that was thanks to Kira, that she was able to take the kids, so I could just be on the wall for 8 hours non-stop. Oh, we're nearly done, but look at all these patterns with the cat. And there's so much detail over here. There's so many things that we could just kind of lose ourselves in. It's such a fun reference photo. Could spend another hour easy working on this, but for the time we had, I think it's going pretty well. I'm feeling much more confident of my own abilities than I was this time last week. With my wet adventure with Vin Ganapathy. That was, I don't know if many of you picked up on that, but I was kind of like, this is so wet and such a mess. So I'm glad I managed to reshape it once it had dried. There was a moment where it was kind of like I'm going to start working on my first ever mural tomorrow, and I've just painted a portrait and it looks like an absolute mess. How's it going to work on a 100 square meter surface? But then I took the time later in the evening to return to the drawing and get it looking good, restoring my kind of faith and confidence in myself. But it was an adventure doing that live with you, wet and wet. And today it was line work. So it's nice and dry and lots of lines, and it's been lots of fun. So I hope you've all had a fun time too. It's about time for us to end. If you want to keep going, then definitely do so. This is just such a wonderful reference photo. And this was like a pre-Inktober special. So Jackie just said, see you in Inktober. I hope you'll be joining me for the Inktober 2020 Portrait Challenge. It's going to be super fun. I'm really looking forward to learning from Vin and Arto. It's pretty exciting. So yeah, I would love it if some of you use acorn ink in your Inktober pieces as well. That would be so cool. And yeah, thank you so much, Mimi and Nutmeg. This has been a lot of fun to draw. Thank you for being our muses today. Oh, someone's painting with coffee. Excellent. Yeah. I'm glad you made it here. I know you had trouble arriving today, but it's great to have you drawing with us. So yeah, Inktober's coming up. If you liked this video, had fun inking together, then hit the thumbs up. I would love you to join me in Ink Naturally if you haven't already. And if you sign up for that, you can get 40% off another class. So Inktober and Ink Naturally with the coupon code, all capitals Ink Naturally, it's below the video. Thank you so much for being here, drawing together. It's been delightful. Quite the mess, a wonderful, delightful mess. So yeah, I'm excited. Robin, yes, I would love to talk to you soon. Thank you for being here, for being part of the community, and thank you to all of you. Thank you, Sketchy, and I just hope you all have an excellent week, and I look forward to seeing all of your Inktober work. So see you on the internet.